beingness. You love what is. And in loving what is, the universe actually becomes transformed. The universe is not separate from what appears in your consciousness. All the forms that appear in your consciousness make up the universe. And when there's love, that which appears in your consciousness becomes transformed. That is the universe. And that only works if you do not differentiate between good and bad in your love. Those teachings have been there for a while. Somebody else said it in different words 2,000 years ago. It only works if you don't differentiate between good and bad. How do you not differentiate between good and bad? The mind, the thinking mind, operates on the principle of good and bad. It discriminates, we could call it, because that is its essential characteristic, the discriminating mind. The fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The discriminating mind. Becoming trapped in the discriminating mind. And this is why it's so essential to bring the yes to what is, an unconditional yes, because it is. The mind, the thinking mind, cannot love what is. It might love what it judges as desirable, and it will reject, try to get away from, or hate that which it judges as undesirable, not helpful, judged as no good. That's what the thinking mind does. It's its job to judge. So you cannot change the thinking mind in that sense and say, I don't want to judge anymore. They have tried it. Because humans heard 2,000 years ago, judge not your neighbor, love thy neighbor as thyself. And then they tried not to judge. Never saw that the prerequisite for not judging is to step out of the mind. It's only from the dimension of space consciousness that there can be the state of no judgment. The moment a thought comes in, you've judged something. Thought can be equated with judgment, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what thought does. And on its own level, it has a certain helpful function if you don't get lost in it. So, love arises the moment there is space. We could almost equate those two, space. Love is space. And it's the only way in which the world can become transformed. It transforms the world from within, because the world is an inner phenomenon. An enormous intelligence begins to operate with a yes when space arises. So that's the destiny of humanity, is to be what appears to be the individual human being, to be an opening for space. One could almost say that all the history of humanity up till now was the prehistory of humanity. We're not quite human yet. I don't know if there will be any history after this. There may be, it won't be very important as history. So you look upon whatever you look upon with love, and you love your neighbor as yourself. Your neighbor is whoever comes into your field of consciousness, of course. And this is essential practice now when facing another human being. I mentioned it briefly yesterday. Is there space, just a little bit of space, a little space of no thought as your attention is there on another human being, a space of the openness of no thought. Not length, doesn't matter. The space, just open. The mind comes in, and again, a stepping back from mind. Ideally, it's there whenever you listen to anybody. Then it may be that when you begin to speak, you might lose it initially, because it's a new way of living. And so it's easy for the mind to draw you back into the stream of thinking. And if you then remember to step back from thought, once you have uttered what you have to say, you step back again into space and you listen. And after a while you can even sense spaciousness in the background as you speak. Another way of saying it, you can sense yourself, your essential beingness, in the background as you speak, the I am. This is probably what a very early spiritual teacher, as far as the Western world is concerned, a contemporary spiritual teacher, early 20th century, Gurdjieff, who spoke of self-remembering, remember yourself in any situation. It's probably what he meant was that. It didn't mean remember the story of yourself. Remember the essence, and it's not even remembering it, isn't quite perhaps the best way of putting it. Knowing it, being it. Remembering could lead you to believe that it is some kind of something you think about. Okay, I must think about myself. So that's, and you will be challenged in two ways by the human mind in this, because the human mind senses that it loses its control, predominance, and that's the challenge comes from within, and it comes from other human minds, which come disguised as human beings. Okay. Most human beings, they carry a disguise of mind. Or the other way around. The mind disguises itself as a human being. The being is there, but where?